They arrested me on my own porch, 62 years old, clutching my family's deed like a lifeline, while that HOA queen bee Monica Walsh sat in her BMW grinning like she'd just won the lottery. The new sheriff bought and paid for slapped on the cuffs, all because I supposedly trespassed on land my family had owned for 6 decades. You believe that they claimed I was the criminal after they stole and illegally sold my cabin using forged papers. But here's what they didn't count on. You don't push a man like me, especially not after you've already taken the love of his life. You want to know what happened next? I sold their whole neighborhood out from under them, wiped out every last one of their schemes, and watched as every single life in Willow Creek Estates unraveled. Sweetest revenge you ever saw. You think this couldn't happen where you live? Guess again. You ever lose someone and think the universe has already done its worst to you? That was me 3 years out from burying my wife, Elena. We thought it was cancer until all the holes started showing up in her medical records, but I'll get to that. I'd finally scraped up enough courage to come back to the family cabin at Lake Serenity, where Elena and I spent weekends, built dreams, and thought we had all the time in the world. I figured coming home would help me heal. Instead, I walked straight into a war. The lakefront had changed while I was drowning in grief. Now there's this walled-in fake utopia called Willow Creek Estates houses so manicured you'd think robots trimmed the grass and painted the doors. It was the kind of place where neighbors probably kept color swatches for mailbox approval meetings. I just wanted to sit in my creaky old cabin, drink coffee on the dock, and watch the ducks paddle by. But peace lasted all of 3 days. That's when Monica showed up, her hair and pearls flawless at 8 a.m., balancing a plate of homemade cookies she'd obviously grabbed from a grocery store. Her smile too bright, like she practiced it in the mirror. "Welcome to our lake community," she chirped, not bothering to ask if I wanted any part of it. She handed me a stack of voluntary guidelines, landscaping tips, dock maintenance requirements, paint swatches, then launched into this whole speech about maintaining our property values for everyone's benefit. You know that fake friend tone? Yeah, that one. She left the cookies, but took the sense of peace with her. A week later, first violation showed up $75 for my grass being too tall. I nearly choked on my coffee. My cabin wasn't even in their HOA. I called Monica to clear it up. She turned sweet as pie, insisting these were just gentle reminders for the greater good. When I pointed out I wasn't in Willow Creek, her voice got icy. "We represent all lakefront property owners now, Mr. Sterling. Surely you want to be a good neighbor. Next week, another fine, $125 for dock maintenance. The wood's weathered, sure, but that's character, not a crime." Then came the paint violation, $200 for unapproved exterior color. My place had been that shade of wood since before Monica was born. That's when the fog of grief burned off and 30 years of federal investigation work snapped into gear. These weren't fines, they were the first shots in a hostile takeover. I started documenting everything, phone calls, visits, photos, even set up trail cams. Then I dug into the county records and nearly passed out. Willow Creek's HOA had formed less than a year ago, the same time they filed their first zoning request for hospitality development. Suddenly, Elena's old investigation notes buried in a closet labeled property harassment made perfect sense. She'd recorded identical violations, harassment, pressure tactics, but she'd gotten sick and had to abandon her fight. They'd counted on my grief to make me an easy target. One night, I caught Monica meeting a man in a suit in a diner parking lot, exchanging an envelope thick enough to choke a horse. When she spotted me, she just smiled and waved. That's when it hit me. Elena hadn't just stumbled into HOA nonsense. She'd uncovered a criminal network, people willing to poison the land and anyone who got in their way. I played along, called Monica sounding broken. Said maybe I was ready to sell too many memories. Maybe it's time to move on. She was giddy, talking about an interested buyer with a fat checkbook. We met at a diner. Monica showed up with a folder of contracts, all set for a fast, no-inspection closing. That's money laundering 101. She set up dinner with the buyer, Harrison Blackwood, the kind of developer who wears $5,000 suits and talks like he owns the police. He bragged about friendly county officials and how the sheriff understood the value of economic development. My skin crawled. I filed an official complaint. Sheriff Davis, dead eyes, jelly donut stains on his tie, laughed it off. Sounds like normal real estate negotiations to me. When I pressed about the bogus fines, he just told me cooperation is the wisest course. It was a threat, not advice. That's when I realized Elena hadn't just fought a greedy HOA. She'd been up against an organized crime ring with half the county in their pocket. I dug deeper into Elena's medical files. She'd gone from perfectly healthy to dead in 6 months' diagnosis, rare aggressive cancer. But the symptoms matched industrial poisoning more than anything natural. Her research files photos of illegal dumping, water test results, letters to regulators painted a picture of environmental crime and cover-up. She was murdered to keep her quiet. And now they wanted to erase me too. I called my old friend from the IRS days, now at the FBI, told her everything, the harassment, the bribes, the fake violations. She listened in silence, then said, "You're not the only one, David." Blackwood's company's been linked to other natural deaths activists, lawyers, all conveniently silenced. That's when we planned the sting. I set up a fake investment partner baiting Monica and Blackwood into one last dinner. FBI wired the room agents hiding in plain sight. They showed their true faces, boasting about bribery, intimidation, and how timing is everything when you want someone to disappear. Monica finally cracked, sobbing that she'd tipped off Blackwood about Elena's investigation, never knowing they'd kill her. That was my cue. I stood up and told the table, "You're all under federal investigation. Every word tonight's been recorded." The looks on their faces, priceless. Agents swarmed the place, cuffing Sheriff Davis, County Clerk Janet, and Monica, who immediately turned witness. Blackwood slipped out a bathroom window and vanished. That wasn't the end, though it was just the start of the real war. Blackwood's lawyers tried to flip the story, even got a cousin judge to freeze my assets and block my movement. Monica, desperate and scared, claimed I threatened her. Cops showed up at my cabin, arrested me in front of everyone, ignoring the deed I waved in their faces. But neighbors filmed it all. Videos of an old man in cuffs, legal documents in hand, lit up social media. Hashtags blew up. Justice for Elena. Local news, then national. Community outrage forced my release on bail. But Blackwood wasn't done while I was in legal limbo. His goons torched my family's cabin, trying to erase every trace of what Elena and I had built. What they didn't know, Elena had buried a fireproof safe out back. Inside the files, photos, and recordings tying Blackwood to poisonings and environmental crimes across 3 states. FBI had what they needed to blow this case wide open. They put out an APB on Blackwood. But I wasn't going to hide and wait for justice. I set the final trap myself. I contacted Blackwood through shady channels, told him I'd settle for $2 million to walk away, make the headache disappear. We met in an abandoned warehouse, FBI all around us. He showed up cocky, talking about how Elena should have taken the deal, admitting to everything right down to her murder. When he pulled a gun, thinking he'd tie up loose ends, FBI snipers took him out before he could get off a shot. Just like that justice. But I wasn't finished. The government seized all his assets, every acre of Willow Creek, every cent in offshore accounts. I filed restitution claims for everything: the cabin, the land, Elena's stolen years. But the real twist, I bought back the land through restitution, then resold development rights to Blackwood's desperate investors. With a legal catch, the land could only be used for conservation. No resorts, no casinos. Permanent protection forever. The $3 million went straight into the Elena Sterling Environmental Trust, funding restoration, research, and scholarships for young activists. The crooked sheriff got 20 years. County officials 15. Monica, who came clean and did her penance, spent 2 years on lake cleanup duty. Community rallied, new leadership, transparent council, the lake finally protected. Kids swim where chemical runoff used to kill fish. Families returned. Elena's name became a badge of honor, not a cautionary tale. And me, I rebuilt the cabin, smaller, greener, full of Elena's spirit. I sit on the new dock some evenings, coffee in hand, watching sunsets she would have loved. I lost everything but found my purpose. They thought they could break me. They just made me dangerous, and in the end, I got it all back and more. But let's not pretend this kind of evil disappears for good. Blackwood's cronies are still out there watching, waiting for another shot. What would you do, run and hide or stand and fight? Drop a comment below. Tell me your story, your fight. Because sometimes justice isn't just about getting even. It's about making sure nobody else gets hurt the way you were. If this story hit you, let me know where you're watching from. Maybe it's already happening in your town. Don't just watch. Speak up. Fight back. And remember, when the world tries to take everything, sometimes you have to burn it all down just to build something better.